Dum 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 dum. Welcome to another Story Tiles, the hobby, and today we are going to have a look at The Lost Ones, an adventure game that can be played from 1 to 4 people. I think even 5 with the expansion. But we are going to play it solo, and we are going to look at what it means to play an adventure game solo, specifically Lost Ones. I chose this game primarily because it's one of the games that is going to leave my collection soon after I finished the story, and that inevitably ties into how I'm going to play the game, because this is very much a older kind of adventure game where replayability is a factor. You are supposed to wander the land and figure out how to solve getting back home, and you might actually perish or lose the game and be trapped in this Fey realm forever. But I'm jumping ahead of everything. Let's get to the overall view. Now, mind you, there are spoilers ahead. I'm going to show you the map, or 2/3 of the discovered map so far. So if you do not want to see this and you do still want to purchase Lost Ones, I highly recommend don't continue watching the video, because you're going to see a lot of the land. Now, if you are like me and you have a short-term memory, then go right ahead, because you will not remember anything once you start playing the game yourself. This is good enough. Yes. Okay, so you're seeing back here a substantial amount of the map. The map consists of these tiny little cards. Mind you, I'm not going to go into the rules or exactly how to play the game normally, because I'm not playing the game normally. You're at the wrong channel for that. But these are basically the cards. There's, with the expansion included, 129. Without the expansion, approximately 120, 121. But you flip these cards over and you see like a piece of terrain, and you lay them out. Pretty much Seventh Continent or Seventh Citadel style, or Carta Ventura if you have that game, which is also a very excellent game. Lost Ones is a very pretty game. The art is really quite nice. Seeing that this is not a review, I'm not going to go into the artwork just now, but trust me, the cards are really gorgeous. Even things like the Bane cards, which are like these negative modifiers, they are just perfectly illustrated for this type of game. The foes that you fight: Grey Direbase, City Blade Master, Dire Beast, Wraiths, Fomorian Stalkers. They're just gorgeous. It's all very Celtic themed, and just like its cousin game of Dreams and Shadows, which is not a good game at all, this game actually has some merits to it, but it definitely adopts the illustrative style, the illustrative quality of the other game. So first of all, you have a character. Now, typical to many adventure games, the adventure game consists of characters, locations, and events. The events are all written down in this book. I can show it to you very quickly, again, because this is not an explanation of how the game plays, but you see here every location basically has its own narrative event, and it has some choices that you can make depending on where you are, what the event is, and then you have to like apply these icons from cards, action cards, activity cards in your deck, or sorry, ability cards. These are the ability cards for Will in this case. And you can see icons on these cards, and you apply these icons to actions, but you have to get all of those icons in order to go to the story that is then continued in the big book. Now, okay, so that's very summarized what that exactly does, but that's not the point of this video. The point of the video is, how are you going to play this solo? Because you can play multiple characters, and I will show them here. For instance, we have Maeve. Maeve is here. She already has a boon card. which is an extra ability sort of thing. There's other characters in there. There's Kaya. There is Dominica. And there is Fenrir. Now, normally you would say, okay, to get the most out of this game, you would play two-handed or three-handed. You would play several characters at once. That is typically how most adventure games, especially older ones, work. Nowadays, games are focusing more on actual true solo play, lone wolf solo play. But this is not one of those games. And so you have these characters. They have these ability cards that they can use in order to get stuff done, skill checks, and etc. in the land. And they wander around the land. Up there is Will. They wander around the land, starting always here at the center, and they start exploring the land, flipping over these kind of cards to then reveal more landscape. And they're trying to find a portal in a tree, of which there are, I think, 5 in the game, in order to get home. And that's how you win the game. And there are, of course, many ways of losing the game, because that's typical to a co-op adventure game. That would be easier if you had multiple characters, because each character has a special ability here. And like, if I just look at Will's ability, Survivor, draw an ability card whenever Will or another character, see, on the same map discards a Bane card. So this ability would actually be even more useful if you had multiple characters, but we don't. Now, the way that I'm playing it, and I'll get to how I compensate for that a little bit later, that's point 4, where you see these dice, which are not included in the game, by the way. I made these dice myself. But the way that I play the game is, normally I would play it vanilla, or aka according to the rules. And okay, let's just say it, you die pretty quickly. Like, if you played one player, which you can technically do, it is a 1 to 4 player game, you get 7 of these ability cards. And if you play 2 characters, you get fewer ability cards. Like it says so right here. Get fewer ability cards. Like 3 players, you get 5, 4 players, you get 4. So it sort of tries to balance the mechanics out. And that's all fine and dandy, but you do die. Or you get trapped in this Fey realm and you have to start over again. Now, starting over again means packing it all up again and literally starting all over again. This is not a roguelite game where you keep everything from one run to another. This is more a rogue-like game where you are really, and I hope I'm getting the terminology right here, actually, but a roguelike game where you just start completely over again, and you have to, like, based on the knowledge of various locations, avoid those locations or know what you're getting yourself into and have the appropriate ability cards to get through them. Problem is, most of these ability cards, they are just one-time only off cards. So once you play one of these cards, it's gone. More so, these ability cards are your health. Once you have no more cards, you lose the game. And by losing, I mean everyone loses. So once these cards run out for any one of these players, which is an additional risk if you have multiple characters, then everyone loses the game and you have to start all over again. This is one of the things that I do not like at all in games, adventure games specifically. I play one character at a time. I don't play the other characters at this point in time. I leave these characters out and I just play, for instance, now Will. This is my second run with Will. And I'm only saying that because it falls into the mode of playing that I'm adopting, which is play one character at a time. And each time a character is defeated, you flip it over and you play the next character. The next character starts at the beginning, wanders maybe a different direction to get more exposure to more different lands and more different events. And when they get defeated, you move on, and so forth, etc., etc. I've done all the characters. Now I go back to Will. Will is not defeated per se in my overall narrative of the game. He is merely frozen or trapped, but now he gets a new chance. He gets new cards, new health, and he gets to move on from the place where he finished last time. Just like Maeve finished here and Dominic finished here. Fenrir had a very short run. He finished here. And up there is Kaya in the far distance, which you can't see right now. She's stranded on the beach. But all these characters will get like second chances and maybe even third or fourth. It doesn't matter, because my main purpose of this playthrough now is to play Lost Ones until the very end and see everything there is to see. And then I'll pass this game on to someone else. I'll give it away as is appropriate to my ethos. I don't sell games necessarily, but I like to give these games away so other people can enjoy them as well. I will have played everything by then, hopefully. I mark off in both the storybook down here as well as the narrative entry book, which you can see here, the adventure choices. I mark off whenever I have read or experienced one event. Number 2, I have not experienced yet, so I'll just keep on playing until I do. 3, I did. Another piece of nice art, by the way, if the glare allows me to show it to you. I just want to experience it all. I want to go through the whole story, and I believe in the end, I think that is in the story book here, you get like an ending depending on which tree you eventually went through. Yeah, here you go. So there are entries here that show the ending, and I want to experience those endings, all of them as well. Now, how do you do that when you're just playing one character? Well, the thing is, just like these characters can get defeated, they can also win the game and win the game together. That is my goal. So eventually when Will finds his tree with the portal to go back home and escape the Fey realm, so will Maeve, and so will Dominica, so will Fenrir, etc., etc. They will all have like an ending. And even those endings that I haven't read yet, I'll probably still read anyway and just be like, okay, this is what could have happened. What if, you know? That is the way that I want to play this game. I want to explore. I want to discover. I want to experience new content and not the same stuff over and over again. That's why you see these tokens on there. There are tokens back here that are actually official tokens that you put onto cards, like in the lower corner, once you have gone through all the options that you can in that location. I chose to play the game the way that I do, meaning that I don't have enough of these tokens. So I had to use tokens from a different game in order to mark which cards I have fully explored. But it doesn't matter, you know, that's just the way you want to play it. And by the way, if you haven't explored all the options, there are 1s and 2s on the back sides of these tokens to actually indicate, as you see here, for instance, which of the options you have not yet uncovered. So that makes it all easier. That is the third part that I am indicating right here. That is to say, I am trying to experience everything that I can on the map. How do I go through these events? Because these events are not easy when you have to give away your health, basically your cards, in order to match the icons. And often, as you just saw at the beginning, some of these options, they are not easy to overcome. They can be quite hard. And you may not have all these icons available. Now, you sometimes get these ability cards back, especially when you rest in the game, you get these abilities back. But I figured, okay, if I am basically breaking the mold of the game in order to just play to the full end, I might as well make myself some dice and put the icons on there. So there's all these dice to have all of the icons plus still a blank. And then each time when you go into a location and you have an event, you also roll the dice and you get these icons. In this case, it's not a great roll, but you get these icons for free. So you don't have to spend these cards. It gives you a little bit more leeway into resolving the events so you can move on. So I do want to play fairly, but I am also giving myself a little boon by means of these dice in order to prolong the life or the gameplay of each of these characters. Because otherwise I would cycle through these characters over and over and over again. And I'm doing that kind of anyway, but you know, it's a balance, right? Also, when you're playing, you can encounter some icons, which I think are called nightmare icons, which move the moon clock up. And each time the moon clock moves up, you basically have this character called Nightmare. And Nightmare here is the ultimate bad guy. It's like this bloody red raven who comes after you and scary as all get out. And they start where you started, and they start chasing you according to the icons on the moon clock, so 1, 2, or 3 spaces, each time when you encounter another one of those icons or an event card or event that says the nightmare moves. And so this nightmare is also moving towards you. And when it comes towards you, as it did, for instance, Kaya, which is again off the board. Let me just go a little bit up. You can see her way back there somewhere. She's lying there on the beach, which normally sounds very idyllic, but in this case, not so great. When the nightmare catches you, the game is also over instantly. It's just one of those endings where it just says like, everyone loses, done. So that's another one of these timer mechanics that I'm not necessarily fond of. I do play with the nightmare, as you saw just now with Kaya, but you know, the moon clock also keeps on ticking. And furthermore, each time when the moon clock goes into another phase, I remove one of the dice from the dice pool. So each time it gets harder and harder to actually survive until it reaches doom and the game is over for that player. Because then you would just move on to the next player. That is how I play the game. That is kind of all I wanted to mention, except that the last point here is the storybook. It is nice. It has a lot of entries in it. I'll give Greenbrier Games that. I'm so sad that Greenbrier Games is gone. They made a very excellent Folklore, The Affliction, the not so great Of Dreams and Shadows, the very hated or love it Grimslingers. But yeah, they do story, you know, and the story could have been, this is not like thick book of, you know, adventure stories like, for instance, Awakened Realms or Madara or something, but these are nice enough. This is family friendly, and they always come with choices that you have, skills that you have to employ, and then of course, like I said, the endings to see how it all ended. Oh, yeah. Here's the other game. Boo! Not so great. Yay! Okay, so anyway, that is Lost Ones. That is how I played this adventure game, and I just wanted to share that with you as an example of how you can play adventure board games that are not RPGs, that are not Euro games. They lie somewhere in between. They're board games with an adventure slant, with an RPG slant. How you can play them solo and get the maximum amount of things that we play these adventure games for, which is story and discovery and mystery and exploration. How to get the maximum amount of that so you feel fulfilled and not get bogged down by timers. Or, you know, artificial constructs that run down your health, how you can mitigate those, and how you can especially just play true solo through all the characters and just recycle them. Just have them rest, have them, if it's a game where they die, don't make them die. Just have them like wounded and they're recovering until the next cycle comes around and you can play them again. That way you can just pick up where you left off and you can just keep on playing. I have a semi-permanent installation right here on my table, just so I can get Lost Ones completely played. I'm almost there, like 80% there now. And then I'll give it to some other happy person, and that person can decide however they want to play it. If they want to play it according to the rules and fully according to the rules and replay it over and over again, or like me, if they just want to go on a discovery tour and basically figure it all out by themselves and have a great time. That is it. That's Lost Ones. I hope you enjoyed my little presentation thereof. This applies to all the adventure games. I wanted to use the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Age era for this example, but that game actually deserves its own special video that will come in the future because I am tinkering a lot with the components. I'm tinkering a lot with how you play the game. I'm putting random generated tables in there. And so that game was just not ready right now to present. Whereas this one didn't need a lot of tinkering, basically just the dice and some of the rules. And so this is a equally perfect example, but trust me, the other game's coming. That's it for today's The Hobby. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, keep exploring. Dum, 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 dum.